The Great Debate Series. Best teams of the last 30 years.
And today we do baseball, Major League Baseball, top 5 teams of the last 30 years. So if you're playing at home, that's 1993. I don't know about you. Every time someone says 30 years ago, I'm like, oh, 1975. Like, nope, that's wrong. 1993 to the present day. That's what we're talking about. So let's get going.
Let's hit it. Number
5 on this list, the 2017 Houston Astros.
3-2 to Springer. Shot into left center field. Back at the wall. It's gone. Springer stays hot. And it's 5-0 Houston here in the second. He's homered in 4 straight games. And it's a 5-run Astro lead here early in Game 7.
And George Springer went on to be the World Series MVP. Now,
interesting choice of audio because you could have gone with the boom, boom, Altuve is up, long drive. There's something missing from that audio. That was cut too close to the home run. You didn't hear the garbage can.
101 wins. This team beat the Red Sox in the divisional series, the Yankees, the Baby Bombers in the ALCS, then beat the Dodgers in the World Series in a Game 7. You'll remember Justin Verlander was traded in a late trade. It was like an August trade. He ended up winning ALCS MVP. Dallas Keuchel's on this pitching staff. Charlie Morton was excellent in the World Series and in the playoffs. Lance McCullers, Ken 100 Miles Giles was closing games. This is Pete Correa. This is the Altuve MVP season. I already mentioned Springer, Bregman, Gurriel. Did they cheat? Yes, they cheated. Are they the only team in history who's ever cheated? Are they the only players who have ever cheated? Absolutely not. And the fact is, they got better in 18 and 19. So even if they were cheating, they got better after they got caught and then could not cheat again. So,
wow.
Was their success based fully on sign stealing? No. You can't say that. You might not like that they cheated, but you can't say the success was only on the garbage cans and the sign stealing.
Yeah, but also, too, you don't know for sure that they didn't cheat after that. They didn't even get caught till, when did they get caught?
2020.
Yeah, so
they investigated back through 18. I think
18 they got caught too.
It was a little gray area in 18, and then 19 they were fully clear.
Right, for that particular transgression. We don't know that they didn't cheat in other ways. I mean, the Patriots have been cheating in different ways for 3 decades.
Yeah, and spoiler
but
alert,
anyway,
they're probably going to make some of our, when we do the NFL team.
I mean, we should let people in on this. Where no one is debating how good that team is. It's so talented. The question is, do they belong on there with cheating? You said it well. Like other teams have cheated on here. Listen, this is the last 30 years defined by the PED era. So if we were gonna do them for cheating, then we would have trouble finding teams without a slugger that hit 57 home runs out of nowhere.
Yeah, right. It's impossible. So number 5 on the list, the 2017 Houston Astros. Number 4 on the list, greatest Major League Baseball teams of the last 30 years, the 1995 Atlanta Braves.
The 1-1 pitch. Fastball swung on and belted. Deep right field. Back goes Ramirez. That ball is gone. Home run. This crowd on its feet for David Justice right now. He's letting his bat do the talking. A double and a homer tonight, and the Braves lead it 1-0.
That was David Justice, the home run. They win it 1-0. Of course, you had Tom Glavine pitched a gem in that game. Spoiler, he's going to join us later in the show. He was the World Series MVP in 1995. They won 90 games. And they went 90-54. This was the strike-shortened season. They were on pace for 101 wins. You had Maddox. You had Glavine. You had Smoltz. This wasn't just any Maddox, though. This was, if you could even say peak Maddox, this was his 4th straight Cy Young Award season and maybe his best season. He gave up 8 home runs. 8. His ERA plus was 2.60. He had a 10 WAR. Even if you don't know these numbers or care about analytics, you know that's insane. This was an excellent team.
Yeah.
An excellent team.
It had pretty much almost every position in the field was an all-star, too. Ryan Klesko, remember when he came up? I think he was the number 1 pick, but he was just he was on the scene. Chipper, Hall of Famer. McGriff should be a Hall of Famer. We can debate that. Javi, is Javi a Hall of Famer? Javi Lopez should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's
Marquise Grissom, and then we obviously played you at the David Justice call.
Yeah, I mean, that was as a Phillies fan, let me tell you, that team was no joke whatsoever. Just so loaded on both sides. It is amazing they only won 1 World Series.
You want to know what else is amazing? That highlight sounds like kind of old.
Sounded like the 50s.
And
what was going on there?
Because I don't think of this as being an old highlight. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Top 5 best baseball teams of the last 30 years. Number 3, the 2004 Boston Red Sox. First, let's play the ALCS homer.
Swinging a ground ball to second base. Pokey Reese has it. He throws to first, and the Red Sox have won the American League pennant. They mob Allen Embry on the mound. The Boston Red Sox have pulled the greatest victory in team history. They lost the first 3 games of the series and became the first team ever to win the next 4 and the championship. Move over, babe. The Red Sox are American League champions.
They break the curse of the Bambino. Great call there. Is that Joe Castiglione, of course?
That sounded like the 50s, too.
Joe always kind of sounds
that sounded like it was out of the natural. What's going on here? 30 years ago, not 60 years ago.
So, of course, you have Ortiz as the hero of the ALCS. He's got the 3 home runs in that series. Bottom of the 12th, Game 4 is when he hit the game winner. Bottom of the 14th in Game 5, he drove in the winning run. Manny Ramirez ends up becoming the World Series MVP when they swept the St. Louis Cardinals. You had Curt Schilling. You had Pedro. Did you know that Ortiz and Manny Ramirez combined for 84 home runs that season? You had peak Johnny Damon on that team. They beat Anaheim in the DS. And then, obviously, the CS against the Yankees came back from 0-3 down and then swept the Cardinals. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, also, too, if you want to do a non-numeric thing, what a team. They did shots before the game, naked pull-ups, all sorts of... Yeah, there was something beyond just those numbers that bonded them together. And just the fact that we're going to use the word resiliency, grit, something to be down 0-3 and not to give up mentally is incredible. That's one of the most amazing achievements in the history of sports.
Yeah, especially considering the Yankees had just done so much damage to them.
Yeah, for a century.
Speaking of breaking curses, we get to number 2 on our top 30 greatest baseball teams of the last 30 years, the 2016 Chicago Cubs.
Here we go, Montgomery's pitch. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it and throw to Rizzo. It's in time. And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. The Cubs come pouring out of the dugout, jumping up and down like a bunch of delirious 10-year-olds. The longest drought in the history of American sports is over, and the celebration begins.
Wow. Curse of the Billy Goat over. They won 103 regular season games that year. Chris Bryant won the NL MVP that year. Rizzo hit 360 in the World Series. You had Schwarber coming back from that bad, devastating knee injury. He hit over 400 in the series, and he had to play the outfield as well. You're talking about an incredible pitching staff as well. I mean, Jake Arrieta, Aroldis Chapman, who they traded for to close out games, John Lester, Kyle Hendricks. How about this? John Lester and Kyle Hendricks were both the first and second runners-up for the Cy Young that year. And that was also one of the most memorable Game 7s, I think, that we have,
Absolutely.
which is the Rajai Davis home run late, then the weather delay, which obviously played into Chicago's hands. It was almost like divine intervention to help Chicago and maybe hurt Cleveland, because that Cleveland team was amazing. So 2016 Chicago Cubs, number 2 on our list.
I think some people forget how good that team was because they were injured, I think, the following year, and then they decided not to pay to keep all those guys around. So there was such a one-and-done kind of feel to it, like the other great Chicago team, the 85 Bears. I think they were denigrated a little bit as a team. They were so good, but they didn't keep them together. So I think we think of them, they won that World Series, but they weren't that good. But they really were that good.
No, they were excellent. I forgot to mention about Javi Baez on that team, obviously. It was incredible. And so they are 2 on the list.
Yeah, their pitching staff was red hot that year, too. These guys who are, not all-time pitchers, too, had career years. Number
1 on the greatest baseball teams of the last 30 years, the 1998 New York Yankees.
And the 3-2. Swung on it, goes deep to right. There it goes. That ball is gone. A grand slam into the upper deck for Tito Martinez. And the Yankees lead 9-5.
How about that, Michael Kay? 114 wins. Amazing. beat the Rangers, beat Cleveland, and then beat the Padres, swept the Padres. They went 11-2 in that postseason. What's memorable about this team? A lot of things. 965 runs scored. They outscored their opponents by 309 runs. That's insane. You got peak Jeter, peak Rivera, Jorge Posada. Tino Martinez drove in 124 runs that year. That is incredible. Bernie Williams on the right side of 30 was fantastic. You had a 35-year-old Paul O'Neill hit 24 homers and drove in 116 runs. You had Brocious, Girardi. Obviously, Shane Spencer has his moment that will live forever. And then as your pitching staff, Andy Pettitte, David Wells, David Cohn, El Duque, and, of course, Mo closing out games.
Yeah, I think also they kind of represent that whole era a little bit. And that, in my opinion, that looking back at it, that was the best team of the run. I mean, 114 wins is...
I know.
They added all these gigantic contracts and former all-play, but that was the peak of the core four, and then guys like all the guys around them, all the role players. To me, like that also, there was a couple things about that team. I went to a lot of those games.
Yeah.
We should go up to even the playoff games. The confidence is like they knew they were going to hammer everybody.
Yeah.
Much more so than the 96 team. The 96 team was young and kind of up and coming. 98, they were like, you walk into the stadium, you're like, oh, this team's going to win, no doubt.
I know, but I mean, the 99 team was great. The 01 team was great. The 2000 team was great. You had the 2004 team was great, the one that lost to Boston.
But were they really great? Can you be great if A-Rod is on your roster?
Yes, the 2009 team, which A-Rod basically carried them to a World Series, they were great.
Oh, get out of here. A-Rod carried them to the World Series. My ass. There's no way.
He did.
Matsui single-handedly won that World Series.
Okay, Matsui was obviously the World Series MVP, but A-Rod was fantastic, especially slaying the demon of the Anaheim Angels, which had been, as everyone says, House of Horrors for the Yankees. Right?
Oh, my gosh.
So here's the thing, right? We have so many other teams on this list. It's insane to try to come up with 5, but that's what we did. Tell us how you think we did. We're going to recap it for you. Number 5, the 2017 Houston Astros. Number 4, the 1995 Atlanta Braves. Number 3, the 2004 Red Sox. Number 2, the 2016 Cubs. Number 1, the 1998 New York Yankees. Rich Ackerman, how did we do?
I like it.
Do you?
Yes.
You're okay with us putting the 2017 cheating Astros on?
Yeah. Look, hey, they did it again without cheating and with different players, so there had to have been something there. You could have done it, hopefully, or the wish would have been they could have done it cleanly, but look, that team is very talented. There's no
What about which Yankee team of the 90s would you put on there?
98.
Yeah, it felt a little different because, I mean, they won 114 games, but you were there. Like, did that team just feel a little more dominant than the others?
Yeah, what movie is it? Catch Me If You Can. When Christopher Walken says the Yankees always win because everybody's staring at the pinstripes.
Yeah.
Same thing, I mean, that team had such an aura. They had a combination of things. They had an aura about them. They had this iron will, and they just steamrolled people and didn't care.
There were, so many. When I tell you my house and my brain has just been all filled with baseball teams. I mean, the 2018 Red Sox probably could deserve a spot on this list. They didn't break a curse or anything. They've won more games than any Red Sox team in history with 108. Again, we snub a Cardinal. We snubbed Albert Pujols off of our top 25 athletes since 2000. We didn't put on any Cardinals teams.
That's because there was, in the last 30 years, what Cardinals team did you put on
The
there?
2011 Cardinals had a pretty incredible run. Pujols, Yadier Molina, Lance Berkman, Carpenter.
And first of all, I'm not doing any Cardinals team that beat the Phillies in the
No,
playoffs.
people don't even joke about that. People are going to think we're being biased.
But how many games did they win? The Cardinals were one of those teams who would just sort of dominate in the postseason. There are a lot of those teams, the Cardinals and Giants.
Another one we left off the list.
90 and 72. We left 110 win teams off this list.
So one thing that Perloff and I really agonized over was the 2001 Seattle Mariners.
That's the one. 116 wins is pretty impressive.
But they didn't win.
They didn't win. They lost to the Yankees that year. But, I mean, do you put a 2001 team that won all those games on your list? Now, personally, I think the 1997 Seattle Mariners are the better team even than 2001. Jeff Nelson, who pitched for both the Yankees and the Mariners, is going to join us later in the show.
I think you got to win it to be on the list.
Do you have to, though? It's baseball. It's the postseason can be such a crapshoot.
But now that's more so the case than it was back then.
Yeah.
Also, to that that Mariners team they were really good. but they never felt like a real threat to the Yankees. And, they won. They were 90 and 72, and A-Rod was very young then. It wasn't the A-Rod that we know.
That's what everyone liked.
I love watching Griffey, but it was sort of Griffey and Edgar Martinez, and it just wasn't that great a team. I'm saying you could put together Hall of Famers, but that does not make a great team.